Hello and welcome, I'm Thomas Porteous and you're watching the World Report on NewsX World. Let's take a look at some of the top headlines of the hour. US immigration agents shoot and kill a US citizen in Minneapolis, sparking protests and condemnation from local leaders. The Department of Homeland Security says an agent fires in self-defense after the man approaches with a handgun and resists disarmament. Minnesota state investigators say federal agents refused to let them enter the Minneapolis shooting site, despite a judge-signed warrant, deepening tension over immigration officer action in the city. The refusal comes as local leaders push for independent review of federal actions after multiple fatal shootings in Minneapolis this month. Myanmar's military chief defends the election as final voting takes place, with the military-backed party already holding large parliamentary majorities. Major opposition groups boycott the polls, while the UN and rights groups denounce the vote as a sham to entrench military rule. US, Russian and Ukrainian officials hold constructive talks in the UAE on possible parameters to end the war. Negotiators agree to report back to their capitals and return for another round on February the 1st. Donald Trump threatens a 100% tariff on all Canadian goods if Ottawa strikes a trade deal with China. The warning comes as US-Canada ties strain after Canada announces a strategic partnership with Beijing. Rescuers in Indonesia search for 80 missing people after a landslide kills at least 10 in West Java. Authorities say heavy rains trigger the slide and warn bad weather could continue for days. South Korean President Lee Jae-myung withdraws his pick for Budget Ministry Chief. The move follows backlash over allegations of abusive conduct and controversial property dealings. US climber Alex Honnold free solos Taipei 101 without any ropes, completing a 91-minute ascent at one of the world's tallest skyscrapers. The climb is organised and live broadcast by Netflix and draws thousands of cheering spectators. We start this hour in the US, and in the latest incident involving the shooting of a US citizen, Alex Peretti, by federal immigration agents, we have some further updates. Minneapolis Jacob Frey, the mayor of the city, has announced the city's intent to file a declaration after yesterday's shooting. The city is seeking a temporary restraining order to halt the immigration operation. Mayor Frey has also requested assistance from the National Guard to supplement the limited number of local police officers, noting that only around 600 officers are currently available. Let's listen in to his statements.
The city of Minneapolis is filing a declaration after today's shooting to encourage the judge to rule on a temporary restraining order on Monday that would grant us immediate relief and would help stop this operation that has been so harmful to the city of Minneapolis. The state of Minnesota has resulted in multiple shootings and tragic deaths. I have formally requested assistance from the National Guard to support the limited number of officers that we have in the Minneapolis Police Department. We have around 600 officers in total. Days off have been canceled.
Meanwhile, the NBA has postponed Saturday's game between the Minnesota Timberwolves and the Warriors due to the violent shooting incident in the city. This was the second fatal shooting involving federal agents in Minneapolis this month. Moreover, US President Donald Trump has posted a screenshot on his Truth Social account from Homeland Security spokesperson Tricia McLaughlin-Yoho. McLaughlin-Yoho has claimed that rioters in Minneapolis attacked a law enforcement officer, with one of them biting off a finger of an HSI officer. Joining us now is Andrew K.P. Young. He is a China strategist. He joins us live from Hong Kong. Andrew, thank you very much for joining us. Of course, this situation is developing and Minneapolis gets more volatile by the day. This latest fatal shooting, just one incident in a string of incidents. How are you expecting this situation to play out, especially given the continued friction between federal and local authorities on this issue?
Well, it's the combination of several dynamics. First of all, Minneapolis is one of the so-called blue states belonging to the Democratic camp, as opposed to the red states supporting Trump. Of course, the Democratic camp lost the election to Trump. Secondly, Trump has been doubling down hugely on immigration, empowering the immigration and custom authorities to use all force necessary to root out illegal immigrants. And this is happening not only in Minneapolis, but all around the United States, but particularly in various blue states, because the blue states stand for the Democratic Party, stand for human rights, democracy, and so on. And of course, these high principles have now been thrown out of the window by Trump's more authoritarian tilt, using all powers under his command to achieve his objectives, regardless of the high-sounding principles of human rights and democracy. And thirdly, of course, the United States is a country of guns. Everybody has got firearms, almost. Even those who do not have firearms would need to arm themselves with firearms in case anything untoward happens. And this kind of fear that if you don't shoot first, you'll be shot, translates into tragedies like what we're seeing, especially with law enforcement officers who keep on doing President Trump's bidding, authoritarian bidding. And of course, they're subject to all sorts of pushback, especially a population, as I said, the United States mostly are armed. And so oftentimes this translates into tragedies, what we're seeing now.
Indeed. Andrew, do stay with us as we move on to our next story. Of course, we'll continue to bring you the updates coming out of Minneapolis as that story develops. But we move now to the Indo-Pacific and to East Asia specifically. China's defense ministry says its most senior general, Zhang Yuxia, is under investigation for serious violations of discipline and law. Zhang is vice chair of the Central Military Commission, a Politburo member, and President Xi Jinping's closest military ally. The probe also targets Liu Zhenli, chief of the Commission's Joint Staff. Zhang has not been seen in public since November, making this the highest profile military purge in decades. It comes as Xi's long-running anti-corruption drive tightens its grip on the armed forces after earlier purges of the Rocket Force and former defense ministers. Analysts say daily operations can continue, but the move underscores Xi's push to reshape the PLA as China modernizes its military and projects power around Taiwan and disputed seas. Andrew K.P. Leung joins us once again. Andrew, of course, Xi Jinping's anti-corruption campaign was launched in 2012. It's punished millions of officials, including hundreds at senior levels. While corruption is real, critics argue that the campaign also functions as a mechanism to eliminate rivals to Xi, enforce this ideological conformity and centralize power around the man in charge, Xi Jinping. What do you have to say about this latest arrest which has happened?
Well, much of the kind of twisted rhetoric about this power game sparks of a misunderstanding how the Chinese Communist Party works. It's not, as President Xi is he's parachuted down from a helicopter, nor did presidency happened because of a coup. It is the Communist Party is chooses its leader. Of course, there is also rivalry. Of course, there's a bit of infighting, but the longevity of the Chinese Communist Party depends on what is choosing the best person that would sustain the legitimacy of the Chinese Communist Party. And of course, Xi was chosen and parachuted, not just parachuted, but pushed to the front because he's now he's wants to defend the long tradition of the rise of the Chinese Communist Party at a time when China was at civil war and the whole country was torn by corruption and foreign invasion, and the party bases its legitimacy on the people, the people's livelihood, the people's living. So but however, over the years, the Communist Party has been rotten to the core. Not only the civil administration, but the highest echelons of the hierarchy, including the military commission. And the latest purges now have totally gutted the military commission. This shows the determination.
Andrew, apologies to interrupt. Zhang Yuzia's months-long absence fits a pattern, of course, a long line of former defence ministers and other security officials that have seemingly vanished from the face of the earth. You have Liu Junqiu, a senior diplomat, and of course you've got the famous examples of Qin Gang, the former foreign minister, who hasn't been seen since 2023, Li Shangfu, who hasn't been seen since the same. What is China's strategy here in approaching things in the way that it does when addressing these formal investigations, pressing these formal investigations, that it's not addressed on state media, we don't hear or even see the individuals while these investigation is going on?
Well, each country has its own way of dealing with dismissals. For example, under Trump, officials would be dismissed by a tweet on Twitter. But China, of course, has its own way of bringing down corrupt officials, not only corrupt officials, but officials who have been failing their duties. Normally, especially with high-ranking officials, it was preceded by a period of investigation. And during investigation, when it amounted to some momentum, the official would be removed from all public sightings and possibly placed under surveillance. And also various other restrictions. If that happened, that is a sure way to show that particular official is facing downfall. This happened not only recently, but also before. And as for high-ranking officials, don't forget that even out of the 7 people, the top highest ranking people ruling China, said about during President Xi's first term, even 2, I think, of the seven Politburo Standing Committee leaders were removed. This shows that President Xi has the support of the elders, has the support of the elite to root out the Communist Party to make it fit for the 21st century.
Okay. Andrew K.P. Liang, thank you very much for joining us and taking the time. It's a pleasure to talk to you, as always. We now move on and over to the Indian subcontinent, and another horrific incident has come to light amid violence in Bangladesh, where elections are due in less than a few weeks. A 23-year-old Hindu man was burned alive while sleeping in Narsingdi, a city merely 50 kilometers away from Dhaka. The victim has been identified as Chanchal Chandra Bhomik, the son of Kokan Chandra Bhomik, a resident of Kashikumpar village in Kumila district. He worked at a garage in the Kanabari Mosque market area in Narsingdi police lines. On Friday night, Balmic fell asleep inside the garage. Unidentified people set the garage on fire, allegedly, when he was sleeping, with a large quantity of petrol, engine oil and other flammable materials present inside. The fire quickly spread across the garage. Balmic, who was sleeping, died of suffocation and burn injuries in what has been described by locals and eyewitnesses as a planned murder. The attackers were spotted setting fire to the garage in CCTV cameras nearby, but are yet to be identified. India had earlier raised concerns over the safety of Hindus in Bangladesh, with dozens of cases of violence against Hindus being reported since the ouster of former Premier Sheikh Hasina, amid fears of rising extremism in the neighbouring country. Joining us now is Major General Sudhakar G, a senior strategic and international affairs expert. He joins us live from Jaipur to discuss the ongoing unrest in Bangladesh. Thank you very much for joining us. It's a pleasure to talk to you as always. Of course, the reported latest incident of communal violence in Bangladesh. Why are we seeing such a rise in violences targeting minorities in general in Bangladesh, especially since the ousting of Sheikh Hasina?
Yeah, Thomas, good afternoon. Thank you. Thank you for raising a very important and relevant question. And my reflections actually take me to a couple of issues. Allow me to dilate them one by one. First and foremost thing, ouster of Sheikh Hasina has been done by design. There is an outside force, external force. We all know which is that force. Anything that is happening now in Bangladesh is also premeditated, it's pre-planned and by design. Elections are round the corner, not many days are left, say 12 plus 7, 19 odd days. So as we are approaching, it appears to me that the minorities and particularly Hindus are being targeted. They're being subjected to target killing. And otherwise the same thing could take place if Pahalgam 2 is to be orchestrated. They can take place in a different form. But this is something which one has witnessed with firearms in Jammu and Kashmir, but it is happening in a different kind of a thing. So firstly, why is it happening? Like you have rightly raised. It is happening basically, as I understand, to provoke India. The primary aim, underlying aim, is to provoke India, push India to such a threshold that it is compelled to take some action, maybe non-kinetic, maybe some kind of a diplomatic, very stern kind of action, or maybe adopting some kind of a response matrix based on an escalatory matrix from non-kinetic to kinetic. One. Number two, India is very, very mindful of the fact that this is the precise design to draw in India into a conflict which will be unusually long, thereby bleed India to death, retard India's economic growth and the shining story that we are painting for ourselves. Third and most important thing is, more than the local or the national issues, there is a regional rivalry which is taking place. There is a global strategic rivalry of I would say, the global powers. When we talk about the regional rivalry, on 19th of June 2025, on the sideline of a mega event in Kunming, the foreign service officials of three countries, China, Bangladesh and Pakistan, they had assembled on the sideline of the mega event. They had carried out a collaborative initial meeting related to economic development. Now, as far as I'm concerned, economic development was a very far-fetched issue. It was a facade. If one country like, say, Pakistan is importing military hardware to the tune of 81% approximately from China, and Bangladesh is nothing less, it is between 82 to 83%, then what else is left? The military dependency is there on China. They have had a kind of an extended standoff along the northern border, and Pakistan has orchestrated Pahalgam 1. Bangladesh has undergone the regime change, and the Jamaitis are having they're calling us they're having a roost. So therefore, the Jamaitis who supporting Pakistan way back in 1971, and they had been banned as far as the Bangladesh government was concerned for a long time. Same Jamaiti has been set open. They are participating in the elections. The convicts, the terrorists who had been convicted in the court of law, who were in the jail, they also have been released. So if this is the new environment, and if we have to go by joining the dots of preceding 48 hours of open source news, America has openly stated that they are trying to mainstream Jamaiti and bring, so it is a new edition maybe. For me, it is a foregone conclusion, because the whole world has started legitimizing the non-state actors, start from Syria, Afghanistan, now Bangladesh, Pakistan. In any case, all the non-state actors have already started showing the signatures of being a state actor. Without non-state actor in Pakistan, no state tool can effectively implement its design and its philosophy. So therefore, this is by design, it is happening, and it is happening with a purpose. The purpose is to put pressure on India, make chicken necks of Siliguri corridor, make it more sensitive and vulnerable, keep threatening India so as to leverage on a negotiating table, try to achieve what has not been able to achieve so far, an impact on the strategic autonomy of India. This, I suppose, is the underlying story and the narrative which I infer. Back to you, Thomas.
Yes, indeed. Major General Sadaka Ji, thank you very much for joining us here on NewsX World. It's a pleasure to get your explanations on these issues. We now move on to our next story, and we stay in the world of South Asia. And the International Cricket Council has issued a strong warning to Pakistan over the possibility of a T20 World Cup boycott, indicating that such a move could trigger unprecedented sanctions. According to reports, the withdrawal would not only damage Pakistan's standing in the world of cricket, but could also inflict long-term financial and structural harm on the Pakistan Cricket Board. The ICC's concerns follows the recent remarks by PCB chairman Moshin Naqvi, who openly supported Bangladesh after their decision to withdraw from the tournament, citing security concerns. Well, that's all that we have time for. Keep watching NewsX World for more international news updates.